Okay, gentlemen.
There we go.
How are we doing? How are we doing? How are we doing?
Yep.
Oh,
Let's
good.
go. All good. Hey everybody, how are we doing? Welcome once again to the living room. We thank you so much for joining us. Episode what? Is it 11 now, guys? Is it 11? I think it's 11. Episode 11. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are, great weekend, whether you're in the Caribbean or any other place across the world. Hope you're staying connected to the Caribbean. But again, welcome. Thank you for joining us. As usual, it's me, Andre. I'm here, good friend with my good friends Mark and Philip. How are we doing, guys?
Doing good. Doing well.
Energetic, man. Energetic.
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 Wanna sure? Because I want to say any words, but
Yeah, man.
Never heard Mark. I've never heard in all my years. I've never heard Mark say energetic. It's
Nah, I
usually
feel good.
tired boy.
you know what that is that he find ready to sell his supplement out there so in Wolverhampton. So he probably
That's a little bit of an advertisement there.
he probably find ready to sell it. But he energetic. He can't see him.
Nah, I
Simons.
feeling good. It's been a good week, you know. Plenty of things going on across the UK. Lockdown is lifted. I don't know if any of you guys got out to the pub yesterday. You know, went out for a drink.
I don't think lifted is the word. You mean is blast off? because it was like people could not wait, man.
Man, no. And it was like Federation once again. I see done by you, you know.
Well,
police was out last night, I think.
Police was out last
usual?
night. As usual thing. I went for my usual 5K weekend run. Man, people outside the pubs like crazy. It was like, what's going on?
Man, there's no social distancing. This is just a
It's
myth.
gone. And
Yeah,
you saw
there's no-
Soho as well. Soho was just
Man, you know what?
Of course.
Once alcohol and you mix social distancing gone out through the window, you don't know that.
gone, completely gone.
But I don't know if it's just alcohol. I think people were really just glad for a chance to sit with each other again. That's what people are really missing. You know, sitting together. But
You think it's just that?
yeah,
Okay,
well, not
there's
just
an
that, but
element of that.
I think that's a significant part of it. You know, people just missing being together. And the pub setting or being in the park, being in cafes, you know, it is a significant change in the social dynamic.
I understand it to a point. It's just the levels to which it has gone. You know, from the pictures we saw in Soho, we should have had one to show everybody actually. From the pictures that you had in Soho, it just went mad.
I mean, I guess I could agree to a certain extent. You know, I think people are desperate to have some kind of social interaction outside of their four walls. You know, having been at home for such a long time, but at the same time, you know, you got to tread cautiously because we're not like some places in the Caribbean that have been declared as COVID free, are we? You know?
True.
But are they really?
Well, this is what they're saying.
Well, look.
Are they
think
really?
The other thing too is the media seems to have changed over the last few weeks as well. Like if you think, you know, 10 or 11 weeks ago, it was the thing. It was the main thing. It was as though all the news channels were just constantly talking and giving updates on COVID deaths and illnesses. That's disappeared a bit. So I think because the media has toned down with regards to the intensity of coverage of COVID, I think that's also changed the mindset for people as well.
Well, I think. Well, I don't know what it's like in the Caribbean, but I think clearly there was a point here in the UK where people, I think, got a little bit fed up of the instructions and the lockdown and just decided, you know what, if it's not good enough for certain people, we will do our own thing also. And I think that became very apparent from that point onwards. I think there was a change. I don't know if it was necessarily driven by the media, but I think it was a change with people just making some personal determinations and perhaps loosening their discipline.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a point where people were just ready to get out, one, and then a bit of double standards in high places, two. And then I think some people just want to get back to work, to be honest with you. I think the initial feeling of it being a bit of a paid holiday for some but it has gone. And then
Yeah.
also a bit of desperation may set in for those who, they can see the period of where government was paying 80% of salaries and that kind of stuff coming to an end. And then also in some industries, even though we were coming out of lockdown, you could kind of see, but it's still going to be slow afterwards. So is my job safe? And some people just ready to get back out there to just say, I'm ready to work, I'm willing, I'm here, that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of everything in the mix, really.
Yeah, I think like the job losses at Airbus was quite significant.
yeah.
That was a real representation of how this thing propagates. You know, the airline industry is down, so therefore the suppliers of aircraft, suddenly their production demand has gone down.
Yeah.
And then there was also some coverage on the news showing that the local cafe in the area, which would have once been full of the staff from the factory, from Airbus's factory, they suddenly have to release people as well because they don't have the same flow.
But aviation is such an interconnected system that you look on that one side of the manufacturing of the planes and the various components, but then you look at the airport itself, because when people travel, they go into the cafe, they stop to buy clothes, they do a little bit of duty free, and in the same way, all of those shops now, because of the downturn in aviation, they are all heavily affected. So the whole system collectively is just really hemorrhaging jobs at the moment. And that has been a big consistent thing throughout the whole of the week here in the UK, where the news is not getting any better.
Yeah, and I think that's partly fair why people just want to see things reopen. Because the feeling is that once things are reopened, the sooner some of the things that look like they may have an adverse effect can hopefully get back to normal. So I think that's one of the key things as well.
Reopen for recovery.
That's it. I think that's what people want now.
I think I could send that to Boris.
Boris didn't want that. But listen, I had my own piece of news this week, because I have been, and I know.
Phil, wait. You realize he didn't even wait for us to bring it up, though, right?
Yeah,
my man had to bring it up himself.
Getting on it.
I just bring this up myself every week.
He was waiting for that preamble to get over with quick.
Yeah.
He's like.
Go ahead, man.
No. You
go ahead, man.
It's all right. Well, let me ask you the question that you really want to think, man. How has the first week, for anyone new to the audience, last week, my guy declared, from Monday, he will finally stop transitioning and actually walk fully into this vegetarianism lifestyle. So give us
after he got rid of the pigtails in his fridge last week.
After he had the pork dinner. So tell us, Corbin, how has it been? Give us a thing, man.
Man, I had an outstanding start. I would say, even if I give myself a pat on the back, full vegetarian meals every day this week. No meat has crossed these lips. Nice. And I am really pleased to declare that, because I know there's some in the audience who've been taking me to task for the last 9 weeks in my transition. People are very impatient.
Well, if you're transitioning for 9 weeks, that's not impatience, really. That's encouragement.
But yeah, man, it's been going good, But next week now will be another push.
Well, week two is always the where time will tell, Week 2 will tell you, can you sustain this?
I've
6 weeks to create a habit.
I've been having some good encouragement from the wife, and she's been helping me to, stay focused, creating some excellent meals. And
now, when you say encouragement, has she joined you in some of these meals?
Man, well, you can go and bring up that idea now.
But you said encouragement, so I just thought I would ask.
Let me just leave it as she's been very encouraging with her words and
with her words. You notice how the guy added with her words. He was able to qualify
with her words and the preparation of the meals and stuff. So maybe
eat those vegetables. Come on.
Once the kids have.
Once she turned into a stick.
Boy, look, this thing is real. This thing is real. This thing is real, man.
No, well done though. I say welcome. It's going to be a good journey. Don't worry about it. What about you, Phil, man? What you been cooking up? I know you.
Today, I did a mix of a a more of a cottage pie, and what I call a gardener's pie, and it was right down the middle. So cottage pie is with beef, and a gardener's pie is a vegetarian sort of potato pie. Came out really nicely, and then on the side a bit of sautéed okra.
Okra.
You know, have you ever tried
That's next level vegetarian. I ain't there
stir-fried
yet.
okra in ginger and garlic and pepper
You lost me
and
at the
olive
beef.
oil?
Nah.
Yeah. But that was it. A bit of asparagus as well.
But look, so while this week was a week of Caribbean departing from the life of eating meat, we also had a few departures
Oh yes, yeah, man.
across the region this year. So this picture tells 1,000 words, Mark. What you say?
Both of them are gone.
Well, let's qualify gone, please.
I will qualify that. You know, of course. Well, Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados came to the end of her tenure as the chairperson of Caricom. She's now handed the reins over to Ralph Gonzalez of St. Vincent, who I'm sure is not looking forward to the task ahead, because it looks as though it's going to be some fairly choppy waters. And then, you know, well, we were all once passengers on Liat, you know,
Yeah,
the Caribbean, what we call the Caribbean airline. Say what you like about it, but it has been a really crucial part of the Caribbean journey. And if you didn't see our conversation with Julian Rogers a few weeks ago in the living room, you really need to go and check that out and see what his take was. But I actually felt quite sad on both instances, actually, because I felt Prime Minister Mia Mottley was doing such a tremendous job across Caricom and really pushing Caricom and really trying to bring together the region like we haven't seen previously. And at the same time, it just felt like Liat has really now, you know, gone. And that for me was a real sad moment also.
Yeah, I mean, two things come to mind there. Is one, I don't understand the 6-month change of the head of Caricom, the chairmanship of Caricom. I don't understand how that works and what it would bring. And then two, Liat, it's sad to see it go. I know Prime Minister Brown has been, you know, talking up a storm, trying to see if he can get it going or keep it going, but that doesn't seem to be working at this point in time. But I would hope that something can work out, and if not for Liat, that we have enough, you know, transport across the region to fill the void, because it will be a huge void.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, if we are going to truly achieve regional integration, we need our people to be able to move around, do business together, vacation in various territories, and do the things that Caribbean people do well. You know, we share in each other's lives quite well, and I think personally that Liat has certainly helped me when I was, you know, a younger person, moving around the region. And I think that that's an opportunity that we still need in the Caribbean. We still need this whole regional transport to work efficiently and effectively.
I agree.
Even for that, it still requires a mindset shift. Even if we have the aviation there, us moving around the Caribbean and so on and working with each other, still requires a mindset shift. And I do think some of the words that Prime Minister Mottley would have said during her tenure, I suspect they will live on a bit, and they've sort of set a standard for the kind of vision that you set for Caricom, and the way that you address things that are happening nationally, from a regional perspective.
Well, it's interesting because I couldn't remember who any of the previous chairmen were of Caricom, if I'm honest, because I think sometimes we look in and then we don't always stay in consistently. But I think what Prime Minister Mottley did was to bring a real elevation to the spotlight of the chairmanship of Caricom, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to see how that will be retained over the months and years ahead.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so today, go ahead, Mark.
No, you go ahead, man. Carry on.
No, I was going to say, so everyone, thank you for joining again. Just want to say that again. As usual, we ask you to share. At the moment, as many people as we are watching, we want to see the same amount of shares. So please share. Today, well, we promised you that we'll always have Caribbean conversations, and we had conversations with many of the islands, or people from many of the islands already. And today, we're going to continue having more Caribbean conversations. So today we have Belize, Guyana, and Suriname in the house. So we have Kieran from Belize, Leron, I got to get those names right, Leron from Guyana,
Guyana.
and Ivan Cairo from Suriname as well. And we're just going to have a Caribbean conversation, see how those Caricom countries, see how they're coping with COVID-19 coronavirus, how they're coming out of that season, and just have a general conversation. So as usual, we ask you guys to join in as much as possible, ask any questions, anything like that at all. So I think this is going to be a good conversation today, guys.
It was a learning for me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to this actually.
Yeah, I think it was important when we spoke about it, especially Suriname. Sometimes I think I don't know if everyone within the region sometimes remember Suriname as part of Caricom or even think about Suriname when they're having wider Caribbean conversations, and similarly for Belize as well. And sometimes I don't think that's any fault of anyone, but as we always talk about on this show, especially Philip, we talk about education a lot, and educating ourselves about ourselves. And that's something that we here at We Global and the Living Room is going to be a part of, and we just hope that everyone can join us on that journey. So
Yeah.
So go ahead, Mark. You going to say?
No, I was going to say I'm particularly going to be really intrigued to hear what take these guys have on this coronavirus season, and also particularly for Belize, which is a real power player when it comes to tourism. And I know that they've been very, very heavily affected by coronavirus. So it would be really interesting to hear how, I know that they're preparing to reopen their airport in August. And it would be interesting to hear how the season has gone for them and what preparations they're now taking with such a large hotel sector, very similar to many other islands in the Caribbean.
Yeah, agree. Okay, so I'll let the guys in now, and then we can continue that conversation. Hey guys, welcome.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
No, anytime.
Turn it up.
Good afternoon. There's some some beautiful Caribbean sunshine coming through there.
Yeah.
Yeah. From my end.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well,
And
just by me, it's a little bit cloudy. We have
No,
a
and-
forecast at this moment.
Yeah, okay. And just to remind everyone, so Leron in the center, he is from Guyana. We've got Ivan from Suriname, and then we got Kieran to the right there, and he is from Belize. So we're just gonna, guys, how we doing? How has it been so far? How are you guys? How are your families doing? Ivan, we'll start with you.
Oh, well, what should I say? The family is doing great. My family is just me and my girl from 10 years old, and we're just doing great, having a good time in these trying COVID times, staying home mostly, do my work at home. And she, since school is closed, is mostly on YouTube and playing games and stuff like that. So we're doing great.
Okay.
She's enjoying it then.
Yeah, she's enjoying it, but sometimes I see that she got really bored because she cannot get out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about yourself, Leron? They're in Guyana.
We're doing good. As you note, my Caribbean sunlight coming in.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We had quite a few hours of rain this morning, though. So we've been getting rain for the morning period and overcast or hot or humid conditions from time to time, because we're pretty much coming down to the end of our rainy season. Although
Rains in Guyana every day, man.
it's changing everything, nobody can really say. We're a few days into July. This is when sun is supposed to be out for the longest period, but we're getting rains, heavy rains. But of course, it's the hurricane season, so some of that blows our way.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're actually getting. The family's good. My son was sitting here for a while, got fed up because I think he didn't get to jump in and say hi, guys. And
Yeah, he got bored waiting. He got bored.
Even had a flag.
So at some point in time, he's gonna crash.
He's gonna come back.
And my wife is reading a book, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But we're doing good. We're doing good. And you might
Excellent.
see two older folks walk around. Oh, see, I told you he's gonna come and crash.
Mr. Leo.
That's Liam.
He comes around. Say hi. Okay. Go ahead.
Hey, all the way from Guyana, eh?
Go again with that one. Sorry, I
I
missed
said
that.
all the way from Guyana. That's a brilliant greeting.
From Guyana, but if you see the little T-shirt in the middle.
Well, I was going to come to them.
Okay. Yeah, well, he's
born,
depends on which
born
day
in
he is.
Trinidad.
He changes the country. Yeah, he's born in Trinidad.
Ah,
Right.
So you might see two other persons pass. I'm living with my mom and dad. He's watching videos. I think the last I checked, my mother was in her garden.
Oh, okay.
okay,
Right.
all right. Good stuff. You're doing well. At least it sounds that
Family.
way anyway. And Kieran over there, all the way over in the west, over in Belize. How are you, brother? How are things? How are you and your family doing?
I can't complain right now. I'm on holiday, so weather. If you think about the weather, it's a bit overcasted. Like my emotions right now, but I guess all is well at this point in time.
You're a bit of a poet,
It's
man.
really great to have a conversation with you guys as well. My family is doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So that's grateful considering what the world we live in right now. It's just like literally living each day, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Wow. So listen, this has been a really interesting and difficult time across the whole of the region, and we would really like to try and understand. And I'll go to Guyana first of all, to you, Leron, to understand what has the response been to COVID-19, and I know that Guyana has some real special circumstances because you've got a few things going on there which we'll touch on later on, I'm sure. But let's talk about the COVID-19 season first of all, and what has it been like for the people of Guyana, and how has it been handled in your view?
Cabin fever for most people, most everyone. Unless you're part of the essential services, you're pretty much been in for a while. You're just out for the essential services. The grocery runs, I guess the utility payments for the start. The response is pretty much mixed. Information flow is a challenge at times. Let me say it's a challenge at times and then qualify it. The information is out there. The question is it reaching everybody?
Right.
So sometimes in the early days, there was a lot of confusion going around. What exactly is the coronavirus? How is it affecting us? How are we going to cope with it? Just after the elections, I think coming down into March, middle of March, going to the end of it, there was a lockdown. So just really the essential services operated, and this curfew lockdown was pretty much from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. That still is in effect.
Yeah.
But we're now into phase 2 of that reopening. Phase 1 happened a few weeks ago. Barbershops and so are opening now. We're supposed to get the start of some public sector construction hardware stores, and so have been given the green light to officially operate. They have been, however, most of them have been operating throughout, particularly outside of the city. The city in the city of Georgetown is where the concern was for the most part of it. That's where the cases started to come up before they started the contact tracing. And of course, if you've checked on the Ministry of Public Health's Facebook page within the last few hours, I think we were about 272 cases up until the briefing yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And we had our 15 deaths overnight to this morning. But we've had about 100 and something recoveries. Now the numbers are going up, but the numbers are going up in what we call the hinterland areas. I don't know if you've seen the map of Guyana. I was actually going to bring it up on my tablet. It's not around here. Sorry. If you look at the top, the head of Ghana's map, you're going to see that little curve that goes around the Atlantic. That's the coastline. That's pretty much where the majority of Ghana resides.
Okay.
Then you've got the rest of that, which is just green, which is pretty much untouched. Those are what we call the hinterlands out in those outlying regions.
Where infrastructure probably not as good as up in
not
the
as
West
good,
Coast.
pretty much the indigenous populations out there.
So a similar situation to Brazil.
Yes.
Yeah.
But here's one of the things. You can literally just walk across to Brazil at some parts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
our numbers are now beginning to pop up in those areas. And of
Yeah,
course, if you
yeah.
followed Brazil, thank you, my wife working for me.
You got an
Like it.
assistant there, man. I like
like
this.
it,
I
I
like
like
You
this.
see the color codes. So up at the top here, okay, opposite side. Around here is where most of Ghana resides, and I think
Yeah.
our major cases are coming in the pink area up at the top. If that's pink,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think I've seen some down in the yellow.
Yeah.
You see, that's my wife's finger. Okay.
I saw that.
Well done. Thank you.
So those are the areas that we now have about 70 plus inside. But like I said, the response is it depends on who's judging it.
Right.
What I would have loved to see would have been a stimulus package to help persons to stay at home and eliminate COVID.
Okay.
Government is the major employer in Ghana.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And then you've got private sector, but then of course you've got those persons who fall through the cracks. And as we say in Ghana or in the region, you have to hustle to get your bread.
Yeah.
So those are the people who have to find the time to get out wherever, whenever to get monies to support their families. So I think in that area you're going to find the challenge where there has been nothing really that has come forth officially. There have been instances where party groups, private groups, non-governmental organizations have been doing food hampers since day one to try to get it out across Ghana, and that we applaud them. But I think, as you said, we've got some special circumstances because our election is still ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was difficult for the parties to come together to say, hey, could we get some money here to have some families stay at home for a little while and support some businesses as well? Because remember, if the economy isn't moving and nobody is spending, everybody's going to feel the crunch at some point in time. So I think I would have, personally, I would have liked to have seen more of that. I looked at the stimulus package in the US. I looked in neighboring Trinidad and Tobago. Most of my time is spent between looking Trinidad and Tobago and Ghana, sorry, because of my interest, of course. And you saw where the packages were offered, and you were helping businesses. Something along the way should have helped, because people were closing down. Some businesses have been operating. I know some computer places, they've moved business online. You call, you order, you say what you want, and you go pick up. They meet you downstairs with it. You pay, you do your exchanges, and you go on. And that's how it's pretty much been moving for most people. But a lot of places have been closed, and there are a lot of daily paid or weekly paid workers who are affected by it. But overall, the response I think the response has been commendable from the side of the government. In terms of the information coming out, again, I go back to how the information comes out, because I was doing some research. We've got a 6-phase reopening plan, and I was searching online high and low for phases 3 down to 6, and I couldn't find it. So it was there in a graphic earlier in the earlies. I think I had it on my phone, but I couldn't find it again.
Okay.
So I can't tell you exactly how I'm going to open. So it makes it a little difficult for businesses and persons to plan, because you got to know when to go back out, what to put systems in place to tell your employees or your family, hey, when do you guys need to come out? So you're going to see phase 1, you're going to find phase 2, but it's I found it a little difficult to find phases 3 to 6 to know, well, hey, where can I go? Where can't I go?
Yeah. And Ivan, in Suriname,
again, sorry.
Save it again.
She's more tech savvy, so on this end, I'll say that probably I didn't look in the right places.
User error.
So in phase 2, and each phase is opening for 2 weeks. So phase 2 is from July 3. Phase 3 is from July 17. That's when the entire public service is expected to go back out. Private sector construct, domestic travels. In certain parts of Ghana, you've got to fly to get to it with these little Cessna airplanes, or you're going to drive for upwards of 5-6 hours to get to some of these places over land. Phase 4, which is from July 31, reopening of hair salons, nail salons, barbershops, taxis and buses will be allowed to open to about 75%, and then phase 5. which is supposed to be the opening of everything else: malls, theaters, cultural activities, and my playground, the gym.
Ah, okay. And
That's the
Ivan,
way in the middle of all that.
so Ivan, you had some, in Suriname had some similar circumstances with elections and stuff going on around the same time during this COVID period. How has Suriname coped during this time? Not necessarily with elections alone, we'll come to that as well, but during the COVID period, some of the measures put in place and how people respond to it. And what are you doing now to come out of that period?
Well, here the government, when the first case came here to Suriname, it was an imported case on the 13th of March. The government, the same day, they closed down the country. The borders were
Hmm.
closed, our airspace was closed, nothing was coming in, nothing was going out. So at that phase, they took stringent measures to try to avoid more import of this COVID virus. And for a while, we had a good situation. I think for over a period of 2 months, almost 3 months, we had only 10 cases in Suriname. Only 10 cases and one death. But around the elections, just a couple of days before the elections, we
Hmm.
had the elections here on the 25th of May. We saw a surge in the cases because people were coming illegally from French Guyana, and also the open borders with Guyana people came in still through. And we had a surge in cases, and after that, we had a total lockdown. And also on the day of the elections, because the elections continued and people
Hmm.
didn't really keep their distance and stuff like that. And we had a surge here,
Yeah.
and now we have like yesterday was the 14th people that died, person that
Right.
died, and we have
Okay.
now I think 270 something active cases and almost 600 positive cases in total in the country. But the
So
response of the government is in a sense they responded very well, you can see. We had
is
the COVID-19. Yes.
so I was just going to ask about the population in Suriname, and is I guess because it's right next to Guyana. Is there a similar distribution of people? So are people do people generally live on the north, towards the north of Suriname on the coast, and is there then the indigenous population, loads of forest?
Yes, it's just the same
So very
situation as in
similar.
Guyana. Very similar to Guyana. The majority of the population lives in the capital and the outskirts of the capital, and less people are in the interior. But mind you, you can say that most of the revenues of the countries are coming from the interior, from the gold
Okay.
fields, the illegal ones, and the two multinational gold mining companies we have here, I Am Gold and Newmont. So you see, and in the illegal gold business, now we also see a surge in those communities of COVID-19 cases because a lot of the miners are illegal miners or individuals coming from Brazil. So a
Right.
lot of imported cases are there, and it is being spread like wildfire now. But in a way, it is under control, and with sometimes we see a spike here and there. But in general, it is in control. And the government, since the economy was shut down, they they came up with a plan with an emergency plan, and they throw I think about 35 million US dollars against it to help people who have lost their jobs or have lesser income, and also people who are marginalized, the hustlers, you can say. Those they for up to 6 months they will get an allowance. I think it's 1,500 Sudanese dollar against, well, how much you pay for US $15, about 100 US dollars a month they will get. And it's not what you can say enough, but it's something. And there are also food hampers for those who can't work at all. You can apply for that. And in general, the situation is bad, but I think we are managing it in our
Right.
way and with the possibilities that we have.
And
Yeah.
before we go to Kieran, can I just ask, given that you both share a border with Brazil, and there has been a significant increase in the number of cases in Brazil, how are you anticipating that might impact on what has been the response from your respective countries so far?
Well, it have impacted us because we have the border with Guyana, but most of the illegal miners don't come from that side of the border in the south. They come from Belém in the small schooners,
Hmm.
and they come illegally in the country, and then they slip to the cracks, and they go come and mingle in the community or go straight to the gold fields. So what is happening now? When they got sick, it is the Surinamese government who have to take care of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah, of course.
also when they catch you as an illegal, you are being placed in quarantine. And here they place people in quarantine in luxury hotels and stuff like that. And it is the government who pays for that.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. Wow.
So
And
people not
similarly,
happy about that.
no.
Okay.
I think some people just see it as a vacation, getting caught by the government, put in a
Yeah.
luxury
Yeah.
hotel
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
2 3 weeks, and the thing is, since the borders are closed, you cannot keep these people locked up. So when they come out of quarantine, you have to let them go.
Yes. That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And I would assume that there's a similar issue, Liran, but I'll come back to you in 1 second. I just want to get this question in with Kieran in Belize, and what has the response been like from the government over there so far in relation to COVID-19?
Well, pretty much similar to Suriname. One good thing I will tell you guys is that I guess I can boast for now, our country has one of the lowest rate of infections.
Yes.
So yeah, for that, right?
Yeah.
But right
Yes.
now we we
Don't
we
don't
we are
boast too
we're,
loud,
we're
though.
trying to hold on to
We
that
had that
crown,
figure
but I don't know
once.
what's going on, huh?
I said don't boast too
Yeah,
loud.
I know.
We had that figure
But
once.
I'm figuring that looking at the other countries, it's just a matter of time. And we've recently seen, I don't want to see a surge, but a definite increase in the amount of cases within just the last 2 weeks, about 10 more cases.
Okay.
Let me just start back from about like end of April. I think the first case, if I'm not mistaken, was actually not the end of April. I think it was either in the beginning or the end of, I think it was March or something like that. But that was the first case. And the countries, we before that, our mechanisms were in gear in terms of how we were preparing. We were watching exactly what was happening, particularly within the country of US and Mexico, and then our bordering country, Guatemala as well. And we were definitely seeing the surge. And so immediately after one case became four, the country went into state of emergency zone. Yeah. And so what ended up happening was everyone was locked up, pretty much locked up in their
Hmm.
households for about 6 weeks thereabout. And
Yeah.
the cases went well. They increased up to around 19 cases, and that's when the country seemed to have had somewhat of a slowdown of the infections or the new cases reported into our country. Primarily, those cases were imported cases, and then it went into one family member catching it from the mother, catching it from the daughter,
Yeah.
or the closer family members, and then that they would stay within those households. But of recent, what has been happening is we in terms of trying to get back to some form of normalcy, the government, similar to I think Guyana, maybe even Suriname, um, has been opening the country in different phases. And one of those phases was, are you guys there?
Yeah,
Yeah. We hear.
carry
We
on,
listen.
Yeah.
We
keep
listen.
Yeah.
listening.
Carry
Yeah.
on.
Don't say the word phases again.
Saw my screen went blank just a while ago.
No
Yes.
worries.
Yeah. 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 So We are currently in the repatriation phase. That is, whereby we have many individuals who were either stranded or wanted to just come back home from US that is highly infected and want to whatever, or those other countries want to come back home where there's only a
Yeah.
little minimum case and they can breathe the free air and all of that. So what has happened now is basically we're slowly the airport and all the borders are still currently closed. However, the airport we're allowing just the repatriation flights to come in, and that's where we have been seeing, or one of the instances where we have been seeing the new cases. Fortunately, somewhat, most of these cases are all of these cases. That is, the last 10 cases have been um, asymptomatic. I'm pretty sure you guys know the term. They don't
Yeah,
they, they
yeah,
don't
yeah,
show any
yeah,
signs or symptoms.
yeah,
They're picked up, by the test. And unfortunately, I think about half of those 10 cases that were recently found were from the illegal of what I would want to call, and I see it is, our porous borders of sorts. And if you sit down and think about what's happening in Mexico and Guatemala, they have thousands of cases. Our
Yeah.
country so far, up to today, only have 30 cases.
yeah,
And there were two
That's really
deaths and two
yeah,
males died early in, I think it was April.
mm,
So we are somewhat blessed, but at the end of the day, I still feel that I still feel that it's just only a matter of time before the cases increase.
yeah.
Our airport is slated to be open, yeah, August 15th. And so that will bring a whole new dynamic
yeah.
to basically what our numbers look like for right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting period for the Caribbean and Latin America and South America, because I think if you watch the way how the wave of coronavirus has spread, in the East, then came across Europe, United States, and initially during that initial European, spikes, as it were, you weren't really seeing that much going on in Brazil and the Caribbean and
Latin
what's not, and
America.
still in Latin America. But now, all of a sudden, you're seeing now where Brazil is now almost the epicenter, although I think
Yeah.
United States may have retaken them over again
Yeah.
in recent days. And I think that's gonna what happens. I think Brazil holds the key really to what's going to happen in South America, as well as the Caribbean, because similarly, Venezuela could be impacted pretty highly. They normally have a little bit of a movement towards Trinidad, whenever they might open their borders, and then that movement across the region as well. So I think while I'm happy to see that most Caribbean countries are showing very few cases, I think we still need to be really, really vigilant, because what's happening in South America, that's going to hold the key really to what happens in the Caribbean, I think.
I think that's a very, very interesting point, because you would note that I think it was earlier this week in Antigua where they have started to see tourists arrive, and they've implemented a system where they are testing visitors on arrival, and some American visitors have tested this. They've put a legal challenge against this, saying you don't have the right to test me.
Don't put anything in my nose.
No, you don't have the right to put anything in my nose.
That's literally what they said.
But it has proven to be a real intriguing challenge for the Caribbean. It's a very early case, because
Yeah.
how are we to determine what visitors are going to how they're going to respond when we start to introduce these type of measures, and who's to say that they might not decide, similarly to these Americans, that actually you don't have the right to do this. So and I think they left and went back to their country. But it just started to really open up how a new wave of challenge could be coming our way as islands start to reopen.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's going to. Sorry, go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just saying, what the the truth is, there's not that much travel, as far as I know, between the mainland, the continent, and the islands, the Caribbean chain of islands, as with the US. So I don't think the effects of the spikes within the continent of South America are going to have that great an impact on, let's say, the Caribbean islands themselves as what's going on in the US. But I could be very wrong there.
No, I think you're right there from a tourism perspective, but I think people move for different reasons
Yes.
from South America up through Trinidad and different parts of the
Yes.
Caribbean. So that's where the knock-on effect might be felt, albeit delayed, so to speak. So what's happening in Brazil and the bit of peaks that we're seeing happening in Guyana and Suriname, we might not see it manifested in the islands
Yeah.
for 6 or so weeks, as people start to move around. But you're right, it's interesting because I saw that in the UK, where we have opened up these corridors of travel, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
the Caribbean islands have been and other countries have been very, they're on the list. And and funny enough, those countries in the Caribbean have opened up their travel to the United States. However, the
Funny
United
enough.
States is not on the list for Europe.
For Europe.
So so you go like, hang on, someone has made a mistake here, because if the Caribbean is open up to the United States, who's not on the list to Europe, given what's happening in Antigua, I'm sure they're watching it in Europe. So when will they close it? So I think we need to be very smart in how we do that. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys have any thoughts on that, Leron and you guys.
Well, in the case of Suriname, the majority of people visiting Suriname live in the Netherlands, where we have a large diaspora,
Okay.
and the airspace is closed. But starting next week, I think there will be KLM will fly on Suriname again. I think twice a week now. So gradually, we will see that the airspace will be opened, and we should be vigilant not to allow infected people to come in. So as you just said, the Americans, they challenge those procedures to be tested, but I think we have to take care of ourselves, and we make the rules in our country.
No, I
Absolutely.
agree. I saw a message there from Marika, and I saw Ivadni asked it as well. How has schools and students been impacted, and has the infrastructure been good enough that the kids can still carry on with their education? And then exams. Has there anything been changed in exams?
Well, in Suriname, the first day school closed right away after the first case came in Suriname on the 13th
Mm-hmm.
of March. And it's only on Monday the children who are in the classes who have to do the exams will be allowed again to go to school. So starting tomorrow, with all the COVID, how do you call it, social distancing in place in the classrooms, lesser children in the schools and stuff like that. So we will see how it will come about. But the thing is, we don't really have a system here for distance learning.
I
So
was
that
gonna.
was a
Yeah.
that was a big challenge for our pupils in the schools, how to deal with school. So most of the times it would be like the parents who have to educate their children at home. There was an attempt from the Ministry of Education to do some distance learning, some package, but since it was not structured into the system yet, it was a, how do we say it here, a half snapped thing, this do that, this do that. So it wasn't really coming about too well. So the decision was made that the pupils of the children, the students of the classes who have to do the exams, they will
Need
get
a
some
battery.
maybe 2 weeks of school,
That's a computer.
and then they do the exams.
Mm-hmm.
And the other classes, it will be the report cards that they have before the COVID case. That will be the basis for them to see if you go to the next class
Yeah, yeah.
or so on.
Yeah, similar here in the UK, where they're using, like, the guys who were going to do A levels, they're using their previous scores for university acceptance and GCSEs and stuff, which is causing a bit of controversy here because kids tend to do slightly better in exams, and so there's that. So that's causing a little bit,
Yes.
so that's kind of different. Kieran, how's it going in Belize regarding students and teaching and that kind of stuff?
Well, I was glad to actually have a couple days off, or maybe a month off from school since I'm a student myself. But nonetheless, what has happened is that the government has pretty much did have some mechanisms in place when it comes to ensuring that primary and secondary education continued at least for the month of June. So what happened is that after the 6 months of our state of emergency, they sort of did the distance education. Fourth farm students were asked to go to school, but maybe for half day. And that
Mm-hmm.
was pretty much to get geared for the exams. This what we call CXCs here in the Caribbean examination.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then at the same time, primary and secondary were asked to pretty much just close off this school year and be prepared for an earlier school year, which will commence in August as well for us. And so, what that year will look like, it will take probably a month to pretty much do an evaluation of where students are at in terms of their education, and then move on from there and devise or create a curriculum that will ensure that all that was lost within those past months
Mm-hmm.
will be reattained in the
Yeah.
upcoming school year. The pretty much the same thing for the tertiary levels and the universities here. Most universities in our country starts around August, like the new year begins right around August. So it works pretty much. It worked out, and then they were closing pretty much around the time when the country had its state of emergency. Um, so what has happened is that one of the key things they're looking at is because our schools are not equipped to hold individuals or students using the social distance protocols. What will happen
Mm-hmm.
is that they're looking at pretty much shifts, having students coming, some students will probably most kids will probably see the education or the school setting for maybe about 3 days for the week rather than
Mm-hmm.
5, and they'll probably do it in intervals.
Right.
They might also shorten the school hours or the sessions itself, and actually eliminate some of the sessions, so the entire curriculum has to be revised to ensure that it matches the duration that the students can be at school. And we're also looking at distance learning, seeing and
Mm-hmm.
utilizing social media and the different mediums
All right.
the
He's had a
thing
break.
we're utilizing sort of these different platforms.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
And what about the situation in Guyana, Laron? Just
Different mediums that we have out there.
Well, it's pretty much been the same across the board in between Ivan and Kieran. What actually happened is that the Minister of Education pretty much kept with the same curriculum we go with.
Mm-hmm.
What happened, the nursery to primary 3 level, primary 4 as we call it, or I think it's now grade 4, 5. I gotta check it. We grade 5.
Mhm.
My wife for the save again, grade 5. We do the SEA, the secondary entrance examination. That's where you write an exam and you go off. It's pretty much over 2 days doing the basic subjects: English, math, science, social studies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Primary students were where it could have happened. Schools and teachers try to facilitate online sessions using the Zoom platform.
Yeah.
Um, my child is in nursery 1 now, going into nursery 2. And he had online sessions Monday to Friday, I think ended last Friday. But what they did, because of course the sessions are only 40 minutes, the teacher came on with all of the students, gave them the instructions. They sent home the workbooks.
Mm-hmm.
So the parents sat and worked with the child. But that's not the reality for everybody, because my child is in
No.
private. For public schools, especially those preparing for the SEA, newspapers usually print supplements. So what we
All right.
had is just two last Wednesday and Thursday of this week just ended. The students sat the SEA, and the week before that they went in to do revisions ahead of the SEA. So just that um, grade 5 in the primary schools. Now for the CXC, of course, they were the only ones in school for a few weeks. Of course, they're still preparing for CSEC, so we're not too sure exactly how that's going to play out. There was the concern, of course, from parents and everybody talking how safe it is, how are students really going to social distance. We haven't, which is the good part of it, we haven't heard any reports of students or teachers contracting it while being in school. That
Okay.
said, there was an incident when we started, when the government brought teachers back into school last week for the revision period. One teacher out in the hinterland, I think, if I recall correctly, tested positive. But then, of course, you would have had to have had it before you got into school. So you would have been
Yeah.
away from the office at that point in time. This is a big ant, buddy. Sorry, he just showed me an ant. Right. So there is the concern, but students are at home. There is the concern over whether schools can open on September 7th. They're all looking at that. There is some amount of guidance from the education ministry, but again, it depends on what school you have and what infrastructure you have. That said, government has a telecommunications industry, a telecommunications ministry, I beg your pardon, that has been taking connectivity throughout the country in the hinterland areas. How effective that is, I can't say. I know there was a program that launched a couple of weeks ago. I caught it on the television. And by extension, it's on the state television station, and by extension, it's going to go on the state radio station, which has connectivity across the country that gets to all 10 regions. So if you would have missed a lesson, it's on at a particular period, or if you've got access to the television, you can sit and work through the problems.
Really? Wow.
That's good.
That's pretty good.
From primary going up. Tertiary has been closed. The university, most classes, as I understand it from a few people I know, university have been online, or your lecturer has made his or herself available to you via some media. Guyana is big on WhatsApp and Facebook and whatever. So whatever arrangement you come up with your lecturer to get your work done, that's how it's going. Because I know the University of Guyana is actually having exams, because I had a friend who was currently going through exams when I spoke with them a couple of weeks ago. So it's pretty much still progressing, slower, but it's progressing. But it's the new reality we all have to get accustomed to, because I strongly believe that this is where we're going to be pretty much for the rest of the year, possibly going into next year. And our telecommunications company, the state-owned telecommunications company, is rolling out a heavier, it's fiber. They're actually in my village right now trying to do that. We've got the DSL faster than the dial-up, but it has to miss you. So that's why I'm using a mobile instead of using their service at the moment. Yes, but
DSL.
instead of using their service at the moment, because that can drop out at any point in time. But if you're in the city, their fiber is pretty good. I know one of the cable, pretty much the major cable provider here is now rolling out 20 megabits for their programming for internet. I heard there's some challenges with that. But everybody's still going. Pretty much everybody has access to a mobile phone, a smartphone with some amount of data. So connectivity is there, even if you're just there to ask a question or two for a few minutes. It's been working. I think for nursery, my child's school, they set up a Google Classroom or something which uploads the work. Then take a picture of the child's work at the end of the day, and you upload it, and they've been graded that way. And I saw his report come in. His report came in Friday. We picked up his report on Friday. So it depends. The challenge really came with public schools and how they would transition to go online. But there have been steps to try to include everybody, as I said. I think
important.
The companies is on board with that program to try to ensure that it's repetitive,
equitable,
and it reaches yes, it's equitable, and reaches as many students and parents as possible.
Sounds really resourceful. I mean, it sounds as though you have all the different media outlets, from print media, from telecommunications, television, radio, involved. I've not seen that here in the UK.
No, it's pretty comprehensive, actually.
Yeah. So that's
That's interesting. As we set a little bit of a segue here from COVID period here. So Ivan, I noticed you've had an election recently as well in Suriname, along with Guyana.
Wait, hang on. Before you get there, that's a Banks that I see Laurent drinking there.
He did it on purpose, you know. Wait, hold on. It looks suspect. I
thought it was a bank, but the Indian banks that I thought it was.
the executive that I have that's working with this company is going to call me and give me a contract that says, "Hey,
I think ours is a bank, but that's a river bank. That's a
That's a banks with an apostrophe.
yeah. That's that's a river bank. That's a river bank.
banks, and we have a lot of river banks here as well. And then there were some issues, and then banks moved to Barbados. That's the history. Check it back. And then if all of you are wrong at the top, I expect 3 cases each.
So wait. So this man claiming banks. This man claiming banks.
Yeah, you claiming
That's
banks.
what it's all like to me.
Jeez on
And
bread,
then
man.
after some restrictions and whatever were eased, banks came back to Guyana. So
That's like me saying the Demerara used to be in Barbados.
back open for cargo, so you can ship. We have repatriation flights, but you've got to apply before you get it.
This man
of
claiming
okay.
banks there. This man claiming banks.
Yo.
We'll check it out.
So-
we'll check that out. I like a bit of history.
For sure.
Ivan, similar to Guyana, your elections were relatively unresolved until recently. I think the Electoral Boundaries Commission called it. I'm not sure if that has been accepted as yet. But, how are things going? How have people, come out of that election period? The COVID period obviously might have affected it. How are things going in Suriname at the moment?
Well, at this moment, we are in the stage where the parliament has been established. The new members, that was last week Monday. So all the 50, because our vice president, he was also elected. But since you can combine office in the executive and parliament, he has to wait before the new government is in place, so that he can be sworn in parliament. So now we have that in place, and tomorrow, also last Monday, the Speaker of the House was elected, and his substitute, and on tomorrow there will be a sitting of Parliament, and there they will decide on a date to elect the new president, because here the president is being elected in Parliament. In 2 instances. If the first time he's not elected, then there's a second round. If that is not if that didn't happen, don't happen, then we go to a larger community of electors, that's the regional parliaments and stuff like that, combined with the national parliament. In that election, there you have to choose the president just with a simple majority, but in parliament you have to do it with a 2/3 majority. And the parties who have formed the new coalition now, they have only 33 seats in parliament, but the chances are that someone from the new opposition will
But
side with them in order to avoid to go to the larger setting, which will cost a lot of money.
and I see your incumbent
And
is
as soon as the
probably.
president is
No, sorry, go ahead.
yes, and as soon as the new president is elected, then the president, he will be sworn in. And now they have decided to fast track it, because our incumbent, he was sworn in on the 13th of August in 2015. And now they have decided, since the country is in a financial jam, that they will hand over power earlier, and it is scheduled to be around the 15th, 17th of July. So
Is the
just as a side step, I think 2 weeks ago, I was in a radio show with Leron should know him, with Leonard from Caricom News, in his radio show, and we were joking about the elections in Guyana and Suriname, and I told him that by the time Suriname has a new government, you still won't be in place yet.
That is one Caribbean argument I'm not going to get involved in.
That's interesting. But I know your incumbent was trying to hold on because he's in a bit of trouble, isn't he? Potentially with the courts.
Um, well, yes, he's in court and he was sentenced to
Yeah.
20 years jail for the murder of 15 opponents when he was
In
a
82 or
dictator
something like that.
yes, in December 82. But he challenged that, and that case still has to be settled in court. So after he stepped down, then we will see what will come about of that issue.
Has he formally conceded yet?
Yes,
Oh, yes. Okay.
his party just with a statement congratulated the winners, and we had talks with the new leaders of the coalition, and they have decided to take over power earlier than it should be.
That's interesting. I just wanted to have that conversation just so people get a context of what's happening in Suriname as well, because I know everyone knows what's happening in Guyana.
Or
at
do
the
they? Or do they?
Well, I was going to ask for some context
Let me,
now.
let me put it into context.
Yes.
My son brought. He just brought it upstairs. We missed the fizzy stuff. I got water, food coloring, oil, and he dropped some Alka-Seltzer inside, so it was fizzing up. This is still potentially Guyana right now. It's calm
Right.
right now until about Wednesday
Uh-huh.
when we're supposed. It's fizzing. Okay, it's fizzy. It's fizzing. Where are we? We're at the CCJ right now, the Caribbean Court of Justice, awaiting um, a ruling, a judgment, some sort on Wednesday, um, to finally know if we're going to get a president, who the president and the winning party is going to be. Let me back up. Of course, March 2nd. We're still technically March 2nd is the longest day in Ghana's history. We're still somewhere along that. We're probably at hour 21 right now. If we got about another 3 days before we get a full 24-hour day. There was an election. Then a few days into the recount. No. Let me explain. Ghana's results don't actually come on the first day. Because of how you saw the map and where the regions are and some communication issues. Back in the day, what happened was ballot boxes were sealed at location and flown out to the city to be counted. So results traditionally didn't come within the first 4 days of counting. Elections always on a Monday. By the end of the week into the weekend, you'd know who the winning party was. Recount happened. There was some issue at the recount center. All the parties ended up there. There was a declaration by the returning officer for the largest region, Region 4, which pretty much determines who the winner of an election is. You can win every other region, but if you really don't win in Region 9, which has 400 odd votes in Ghana's 735,000 people. We've been about 735,000 people since I've been in primary school. Okay, we really had a census in a while.
Probably 800,000.
We need to work. Then straight to the court. Our election has been in and out of every court. We've started in the High Court, we've gotten to the Appeals Court, then we got to the CCJ. CCJ says we're not going to meddle too much. This is in the first round around May last year. We're not going to meddle too much, but I think this is what is going to happen. So we came to election, and then we had a series of challenges to determine whether this declaration was valid or not. The declaration that was given in the election center, which was literally shouted from the second floor with everybody there during the ruckus, said the incumbent party has won it. The PPPC, the major opposition party, which is vying to reclaim power, of course, they lost power 5 years ago to the coalition, the APNU AFC. They went to courts, and then we started a whole bunch of battles. We got it this way, then we got it that way. Then we came to the recount with the intervention of immediate past chairman of Caricom, Mayor Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados, and all seemed good. Then the recount started. And when the recount started, we found a number of issues in boxes that were raised by party agents. Let me give you some of the issues that came out. And these were most of the issues that have been raised by the incumbent. Missing statutory documents. If you've got a ballot box, you've got to have a number of documents that give you a snapshot of what actually happened let's say, polling station A. If 6 of us are in polling station A and we voted, then we should see everybody's list should say 6 persons voted in here. In some instances, you've had variations in that list. So if we have 4 parties looking in, 4 parties' lists will be in that box along with the returning officer who's in charge of that polling station. And then there are things you can vote. You can go vote without an ID card. You can go vote with your passport. If you have neither of those, you can go with a letter from your employer saying, well, hey, he's been employed in this company, he's been in this country for X amount of years. Or an oath of ID, which will say, I am Leron Brummel, living at 1 Sunshine Street, X, Y, and Z. Now, if you vote using any of these methods outside of your ID card, which is really what they really ask you for, a document is supposed to accompany it. Hey, so they found in certain boxes that those were not there. So if 3 of us voted using that and then we say it's there, but we can't find the supporting documentation, can we count that as valid? Then there have been instances where you can't find any of the legal documents. So it's just a box with ballots that were cast. It doesn't have anything else inside. Wow. So at the end of this recount process, the numbers put the PPP, the opposition party, in the lead by about 15,000 votes.
Yeah.
As you've noted.
That's a huge swing, though.
Anomalies. Yeah. And this is across all 10 regions that they have found anomalies in.
Yeah, that's a huge swing, man.
In 2,339 boxes, pretty much the majority of those boxes were affected. So the incumbents are saying, well, this can't be right. This is fraud. We can't accommodate because you've also found instances where persons believed to have been dead have voted, recorded as voted.
Oh dear.
They've sent this to the Elections Commission. They've sent this to the Commissioner of Police, the Guyana Police Force, to investigate and find from the Post Office Corporation, which has deaths and marriage certificates, birth certificates, and that thing. And those things have been put forward. You found instances where persons are living in London. So you guys are out in London and say you're Guyanese. If you're not physically here, you cannot vote. There's no remote voting.
Right.
There's proxy voting if you might be disabled or something and you can't get to that station.
Yeah.
You can have a letter say you voted by proxy.
So you found non-residents Guyanese were voting as well?
Those are the issues that were found. Now, those are the contentions that the incumbent are going to say, well, hey, this can't be right.
Wow.
Now, the chairman of the Elections Commission says, well, based on the Caricom, the gazetted order that this is what we're going to do with this election. We're going to go back and we're going to recount to see who's what. And you found all of these faults. The main opposition is saying, well, hey, this order says all votes. The incumbents are saying valid votes. The contention now is what is a valid vote.
Right.
Right.
If you don't have the supporting documentation, according to the opposition, and I think the electoral law, I don't have that. No, my wife is not going to find that one.
That's all right.
Right. It says all of these things are supposed to be supporting you, are supposed to be supporting to tell you exactly. It's like you can't drive a car without a license. If the police catch you, you'll be charged because you're breaking a law. So pretty much that's the contention. So the in the first instance, the incumbents were asking for an annulment of the results. The Elections Commission says, well, we can't annul. We can only declare a winner. So we've got the decision, okay, we can only declare a winner. You can only annul through an election petition in the High Court.
Right.
So just on the end of the recount, when everything was done and the CEO was supposed to submit his report, the incumbents went to court, filed an injunction blocking the declaration of results because they believed it would have meant the PVP would have been taking it on fraudulent votes. They went straight to the Court of Appeal. Now, this is where the challenge. This is where the party gets touchy.
This is where Caricom is getting in some trouble.
Right. The Court of Appeal, not really Caricom as much. But hold on, we're gonna get there.
I know we can get there. Yeah, I know.
According to the jurisdiction, according to what we're seeing as a jurisdiction, says that on matters of election, the Court of Appeal is the final court.
Right.
That's what they're saying.
Yes.
The CCJ.
And then
Not the
to
CCJ.
boot, when that happened, so 2-1, 3 judges sat on the panel, 2-1 ruled valid votes. Valid votes then means the incumbents are going to retain power and carry on, form the next government. The main opposition went to the CCJ and got an order asking for a state to state a decision, so no declaration can be made. The CCJ met; they had the arguments, which was last week. But here's the other thing: they're saying that the CCJ doesn't have jurisdiction.
Yes.
So, as I understand it from a few of my legal friends, the CCJ has to listen to all the arguments to then say whether it has jurisdiction or not. To rule on it. So the hypotheticals are: the CCJ says, "Hey, I have jurisdiction," and it upholds the decision of the appeals court.
The appeals court, or they pass it back down.
According to your order, according to your gazette and whatever interpretation they see it as, it said we're going to recount, but we're not going to look at fraud or whatever. Whoever wins all the votes, then it gives the PPP. So whatever happens at that point is there. Or the CCJ could just come back and say we don't have any jurisdiction, period. So guys,
so I read
to the appeals court, which means if the appeals court has ruled, then that's what happened. That's what happens. Yeah. What I understand, if it goes that way, there's another part now. 15 days after a government is sworn in, a president is sworn in, you can sign a petition to declare the results null and void and start the entire process over again to go to an election. So we wait to see what's happening at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was going to say I read that there was some 115,000 votes that were discarded because they didn't have the legal documents, and it does make you wonder how this is actually going to be on pick, and you know, surely we're heading towards another election in Guyana in the not too distant future. But
should that happen, here's where I think the majority of the problem came. We've always had the issue with a bloated list going into an election. What does a bloated list mean? It means we don't know, we don't have a correct snapshot of how many people can vote.
The valid vote,
and that leads to a man putting his hand in the cookie jar or something like that.
Right.
If you want to use,
but what were the polls like going into the election? Did it say was it looking like the incumbent would win, or was it looking like a change?
I think it's a little tight to call. One, we don't have persons who really do polls in Ghana.
A sophisticated polling mechanism.
A sophisticated polling mechanism. I forgot his name. Out of Barbados. I've dealt with him while I was in Trinidad.
Oh,
Peter Wickham. Peter Wickham.
Yes.
He's the only one across the whole Caribbean, it seemed like.
and he either goes
Peter
left
killing it.
or far right.
Yeah.
Really accurate from what I remember.
He's pretty accurate, actually.
So
you
don't
you're
have
right.
that. So here's the thing. If you look at numbers, it's gonna be tricky because depending on where you have a rally, that's where you're gonna have a crowd.
Okay.
Right. So if you go into your stronghold, you're gonna get a crowd. If you go into a balanced or the other party stronghold, you're gonna have little to nothing. In fact, there was a photo that was circulating one time, put up out of jest, but it had the speakers of one party, no name, no warrant. They were in this rural community, and they had like about 5 goats, like literally 5 goats. So
Greatest of all time.
You gotta be very careful around election time, what pictures you take out and what you use and stuff like that. So in essence, that is where we're at. The country is pretty much almost still at this point in time. And Wednesday is hopefully our 24th hour of March 2nd, where all of this twists and turns will finally be over.
This is a pretty pivoted election, though, because, you know, Guyana has been recently minted, potentially. And this is a real fight that's going on here as to who controls this next era of Guyana's, economical development, considering, the oil finds or the potential oil finds, the contracts and what's not that's going to be given out and that kind of thing. So, that is, I don't think anyone's going to lay down on this one, to be honest with you.
No.
No, make no mistake about it. This election was about oil.
Yes.
Got it.
Nothing else. Oil.
That's
Who will think? But here's the interesting thing about that. And there's a discussion I was having with my wife. My wife is finishing off an EMBA, and she had one of her lecturers was a former oil minister of Trinidad and Tobago. No name, no warrant. He was saying what he's been hearing for the last few years is only talk of what is going to be done with the money, but not the setting up of a sector, an industry around
The
it.
infrastructure. Yeah, so you might lose out again.
The reality of the situation, and Ivan knows about it. The reality of the situation is if that oil or that gas is not coming on shore, it's not coming on land to a refinery or something, the entire country doesn't benefit. You don't develop your industry that well because it's a ship floating off.
Yeah.
Another ship comes up, he lifts, he's gone, or she
And
lifts.
he's gone, yeah.
Ship or female, sorry. She lifts and she's gone sailing off somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's it. And what Ghana will therefore have is, in essence, just a service industry.
Exactly.
And very few people getting into the actual oil and gas business. There are some institutions over here, tertiary institutions, who started. Of course, I got an invite to go do a 1-year course in petroleum, at a cost, of course. Not free. But that's pretty much what's happening.
Yeah.
So
and
listen,
for those, sorry, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
No, you talked there about the economics of this election, and I know St. Kitts had an election. Obviously, Guyana is hung. Suriname, Trinidad have just announced theirs, but there's a real economic impact that is being felt across the Caribbean because of loss in particularly in tourism revenue. I know we talked there about oil in Guyana, and I wanted to bring Kieran in on this discussion, particularly around the economics of it. Because I think I read somewhere earlier this week that the IDB produced a report that said globally, I think Belize was the third worst country in terms of being hit on the back of tourism revenues falling. And it looks as though you are in a position where it's going to be significantly difficult to recover. And I wonder if you wanted to speak to that whole question of economics, particularly from a Belize perspective and tourism.
Well, absolutely. Tourism is actually one of the largest income generator for our country, and ever since COVID entered our country via flight, what happened was that it immediately ill-repaired our tourism sectors. Since that has happened, thousands have lost their jobs. And everything is at standstill right now. And this happened when it was one of the pivotal, what we call high tourism season for us. So we just basically, they have like hundreds of hotels closing down.
It's empty.
Everything is just completely shut down. And so you have, that ends up with having thousands of persons unemployed.
Yeah.
And currently, the government is assisting with a small stipend via the Social Security with some small grants, but that is not enough. And so you have almost about, when it comes to the Social Security scheme that we have, there were about 80,000 persons. We're a country of only 400,000, but 80,000 applied for that assistance, and assistance goes to persons who lost jobs or who have little income to deal with COVID or to actually provide for their family, that is. And so what happened was you had almost about 50 to 60,000 who were able to receive support via that system. But since then, the country has been in complete shutdown. We're rejuvenating, we're bringing the industries as is have suffered, and I think its last almost about 200 million just between that span time. And it's interesting because, as you may be aware, similar to Suriname, as you guys might highlight, a lot of people don't know that Belize is somewhat Caribbean. We're a mix of Latin America and the Caribbean. And so that has helped us a lot in terms of especially living and dealing with the work of civil society, garnering sponsorship. However, it has also caused us some problems. And in terms of providing and doing work for civil society or civil society type work, we have seen ourselves literally see the faces of these individuals who are impoverished. Our country is also facing a lot of economic issues prior to this, and we're also gearing up for an elections as well.
Yeah.
And
Okay. What's coming?
if you've read a lot, our country has been dealing with a lot of huge litigations
Yeah.
with Michael Ashcroft, and that in itself it's just one of the worst times to be actually in Belize dealing with all of this. But I will tell you this: um, August 15th will be when, well, tentatively, because if in the event we see a larger case and we see more community spread, then plans might change again and we might go down and do another shutdown of the country. But
Yeah.
August 15th, they're opening up the airport. And the problem with that is by that time, we already be in what they call the low tourism season. So again,
Right.
it's already a loss for us this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the problem with this is that a lot of persons it is said that of 50% of those who lost their jobs will not be able to see those jobs coming back to them maybe in the next 2 to 3
Yeah.
years.
Wow.
You know, so for us, we're really struggling when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Got something here, Kieran, because to be honest, I don't know a lot about Belize, or I have to say this, I couldn't even find it on the map easily when I was looking for it. You know?
Yes.
Shame.
He just
Shame.
admitted that.
Right in
Yeah.
the middle, right in the middle. Come on.
Oh, I know where it is now.
He
okay?
just admitted that. Yeah.
Didn't you see the beautiful people? Come on. Oh,
But with a population of 400,000,
Yeah.
that means you're not very densely populated. So a lot of when you have that high tourist season, that means that's probably the busiest time in Belize. So, for example, do you have neighbors around you, and what's life like?
Okay, so
But-
let me just give you a quick geographic
Yeah.
synopsis of Belize. Capital is Bamapan, that's in the middle of the country itself, and that's more in the inland areas. The coast is what we call the commercial capital, which was once the the first capital of Belize, and that houses about 40 to 50,000 individuals. So that's the most densely populated area. I'm residing
Okay.
in Belize City right now. So we have plots of lands about like 50 by 40 feet, 100 by 40. There's a north, there's a south side, there's a richer area, there's a poor area. I'm
Okay.
in the poor area, I guess. It's and our dialect is Creole, English, Hispanic. 50% the
Okay.
composition is Hispanic individuals. That has skyrocketed up probably from 5 years back because English and Creole, what we call Creole individuals, were primarily those who composed of majority of Belizeans, or when it comes to ethnicity. So you have Hispanics, and that's just basically because of we're pretty much near to 2 or 3 Hispanic countries. So
Yeah.
a lot of migrations has been happening, and we've also seen a very high increase of you have Taiwanese, Chinese, and then
Right.
also persons from the African continent. So it's a melting pot. It's a beautiful melting pot. We have
The
the
word
best.
the
We
word
have
is
the
getting
second.
up.
We have the second largest barrier reef. Come on, man. Come on. We have the best. We
Feel
have
your
the best
hurt, you man,
beer.
there, man.
Word is getting out.
We have the best.
To
We have
fill
the
up.
best beer. I don't know about the banks. I've traveled some places, some islands. I've been to Saint Lucia. I've been to Saint Vincent. I've been to Trinidad. I love those kind of area. I have roots from Saint Vincent. I'm a part of an ethnic group called the Garifuna here in Belize, and our ancestors come directly from Saint Vincent. So Immediately
Okay.
when I touched ground in St. Vincent, there was a part of me that was like, wait. My roots is here.
This
My
look, yeah.
let me say it in my
Wow.
dialect. My roots there. So
Yeah.
Roots there.
um,
You know,
it's interesting. But honestly, you should come and try and visit. You'll have a good time
he'll get there.
after COVID,
Yeah,
though.
I'm looking forward to it.
So it's interesting, right? So we have a little laugh at Phil's expense there, but it is a good segue actually, because we talk about education a lot and understanding about ourselves and learning about ourselves, but I wouldn't be surprised if what Phil said. There are many other people who actually in the same boat, but wouldn't necessarily want to admit it. And one of the things that
On
even as
Facebook
we
Live.
I don't think anyone will admit it on Facebook Live or YouTube, actually. Very guys watching. But I think this season of course, coronavirus has really brought the unity of Caricom and the Caribbean to light, to the fore, or unity or disunity, however you want to look at it. And how much we know about ourselves. And one of the questions I had, and I'll come to you as well, Ivan, about this. Generally, Kieran, do people in Belize feel integrated into the other Caribbean islands or the wider Caribbean? We know officially you are, but generally, is that feeling of being part of CARICOM, part of the wider Caribbean, is that feeling there?
That's a very interesting question. I think it depends on what area you're in. And I have to be honest when it comes to that. We have 6 districts, and when you travel in these 6 districts, you get different cultural aesthetics and different cultural vibes. When you're in Belize city, you definitely feel that attachment, to that connection to what's happening and what's relevant in the Caribbean. In terms of our history and our culture, we have a lot of influences from the Caribbean. I guess basically based on our histories, our African slaves, all of that entwined, and so the government of course of Belize has been also an integral and ensures that Belize played an integral role in CARICOM itself. It's just the fact that it really depends upon who you are as an individual and what your interests are. Caribbean is not, CARICOM, sorry, is not necessarily, something that is on the mouths of everyone here in our country. Unless you're politically affiliated or you're a part of the industry or doing some entrepreneurial activity that would, render some support from CARICOM. But definitely it's a community that we are a part of. I'm familiar of it. And there goes my dog. I told you I had dogs, but I was waiting. It took so long, right?
No tourist attraction, by the way.
But honestly, we are definitely Caribbean people. I mean, the dance, the music, the feeling of Caribbean is here. Definitely, we have carnival. We do all of that. I mean, it is definitely a feeling there. But again, Belize is such a wonderful melting pot that you get to. When you come here, you feel like you're in Mexico or you're in one of those other Latin American countries, and you go somewhere and you're like, I am in Jamaica. I am liming. I am doing what I need to do. But sorry.
No, that is intriguing because when I was looking at Belize and I knew where it was on the map, Phil, shame on you.
There's no shame.
One of the real intriguing things again was, you're part of CARICOM as an organization. You're part of the same organization in similar organization in Latin America, and you're part of a similar organization in Central America. So you've got quite a mix of identities in Belize, and that seemed you talked there about the government, and I wonder whether that has been a real strategic move by the government to ensure that Belize stays a part of these blocks, to make sure that all the communities can benefit from the cultures within them.
Absolutely, and I think that's also a part of one of the key tactics, if I want to use that word, for civil society organization when garnering funds and support, particularly for those who we deem most at risk. When it comes to grants and community grants, Belize is a part of it. It's a small country. We have debts as well, like anybody else. So I think it is strategic. However, I think what will change, and I think it will change and it will evolve, basically depending upon that same composition that I was talking about earlier, in terms of the populace that we have. Like I mentioned before, we have 50%, almost near 60% of our populace comprised of Hispanic individuals, and it goes down to that, and then the other population, the other larger population would be the Creole of Creole descent,
Yeah.
and so once you see that happening again, culture will determine priorities, and basically will culture will form its own culture, and so we'll see how that tie into the relevance of thinking Belize as being a part of Caricom, how that will transcend in the future. But I do believe that again, depending upon our composition, that will play a role in the future.
Yeah. We had a discussion last week on race in the Caribbean, at least at the start of it. How do those two groups in Belize integrate and get on with each other? Is there a lot of contention between those groups?
I'm biased, so I don't see colors. So I don't think so. I think we do
Okay.
have history of racism, but I think it's evolving, because what is happening now, you see a lot of individual that is mixed. You used to see either dark, or you either used to see straight hair or no
Hmm.
hair or hair, and now you see that mix coming in into our country. There's a lot of people who have integrated, and I think that honestly, it's not as bad as other countries. In certain
Okay.
areas, yes, because of the cultural setup and aesthetics. Some people might also deem one of our indigenous communities, which is the Maya culture, as being particularly racist. I don't see that. I just see it's a part of the way how they live their daily lives, or their communities. Their communities are somewhat isolated, similar to
Yeah.
what you would the Amish communities. I mean, they're very close knit. Their families, they own communities, they own villages,
Hmm.
and they're very protective over those areas. So I see that as cultural heritage,
Right.
but some other people can read that as otherwise.
I would visiting the Mayan communities be part of the sort of tourist scene, or would they kind of
Uh,
try to keep tourists
well,
out?
well, you in most cases no. You will see the Maya ruins, yes,
Okay.
where there are no Mayans. Um, so you will see those areas, but other than that, not much. Some of these communities also are well involved in factories such as chocolate factories in our country,
Right.
and farming. So yes, there are some excursions to those sites, but other than that, the communities are pretty much closed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
interest. I mean, similar thing, Ivan, with Suriname. Do you feel part of the wider Caribbean community? And I know you might feel it personally, but in generally, do Surinamese feel part of the wider community?
And I
Well,
knew where
you
Suriname was on the map, by the way. Just
Good man.
continue.
well,
You just spot it right after you phone Guyana, right?
you're right. Personally, I feel like a Caribbean, because I've traveled a lot in the Caribbean through the years, and in my personal situation, my daughter's her mother is from Saint Lucia, so
Oh.
she's half Saint Lucian, half Surinamese. She's living with me in Suriname. You see, so I I am a Caribbean man, but in general, it is not how should I say it? It's not really accepted in large in Suriname yet, because since we were a colony of the Netherlands,
Netherlands.
Netherlands, yeah.
the people and the government were more focused on relations with the Netherlands.
Hmm.
Yes,
And one of our main obstacles in the Caribbean is also our language. We speak
yes.
Dutch,
Dutch,
and
yeah.
and the rest of the Caribbean speak either English, or we have
Or
some places a little bit of Spanish,
French and stuff,
and
yeah.
and we have Dutch as our main language. So that for a long time was a problem, but for the last 15, maybe 20 years, I have seen that our government. Hello, hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
He's
Yeah,
still
still
there.
there. Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, yeah, we good.
Yeah, and for the last 15 to 20 years, we have seen that our governments have taken more actions to integrate in the Caribbean, and I think it has come to fruition the last couple of years. with the incumbent president of should I say our outgoing president Bouterse, he launched the idea of Caribbean Caricom enterprises, and
Yes.
it's something he and Miss Mortley from Barbados are doing at the moment, like entrepreneurs from Barbados coming in Suriname, setting up shop and doing all kinds of things in agriculture and stuff like that. So some in some small way we are coming aboard, and I think we will get there. It's not in the general public yet. It's not our awareness. We like soca music. We hear soca music, but it's not like when you go to Trinidad or Jamaica that you hear reggae the whole day, or calypso the whole day. No, but we have our own Caribbean dynamics, the
Yes.
history, the part of the culture,
Yeah.
and also Suriname has something unique in itself because we have here still the Maroons who have conserved the tribal way of life in the interior. Like for instance, I myself I'm a Maroon or educated and stuff like that. Now living in the capital, but it's still in our system. And here the people we don't see too many racial how do you call it, racial tension and stuff like that. During election
Right.
time, maybe you will see a little bit, but we had two leaders here in the 50s, Mr. Lachman and Mr. Spengel. Mr. Pengel was a Afro Surinamese, and Mr. Lachman was a East Indian. And they came together and they said, we have to come with a policy that the two largest ethnicities live side by side with each other. And that's how it is. We see each other, but we don't really see race to something like that. You have some instances where people you have it everywhere, but in general,
Understood.
we don't see race because we have like I think all if I'm correct, all ethnicities that is in the world we have in Suriname. We are the only
Right.
Caribbean country that have people from Indonesian descent, a large community in Suriname, the Japanese. They are the third largest group in the country. We have a
Oh.
large community of Chinese. Chinese. We have the largest community of Chinese in the Caribbean, I think.
Okay.
Really?
Yes, a large
Okay.
community of Chinese. So we are a
I might
big,
beg I
big.
might beg to differ with you on the last part about
No,
the
I'm telling
Chinese, but
you, I
I'll
am
wait for
telling
my
you,
turn.
we have the largest community, and just to put it in perspective, people come to Suriname and they wonder how it come that a mosque is standing side by side with how do you call a Jewish
A
Temple.
synagogue.
yes,
Synagogue.
A
right
synagogue. Yeah.
next to each other, no problem. And we
That's
have one
interesting.
street in the capital where you have the synagogue, you have a Hindu temple, you have I think three denominations of Christianity in one street side by side you can see, and everybody they pray like nothing is a problem.
Wow.
It's interesting. Interesting.
That sounds like a place to visit.
Yeah,
Listen,
man.
we
Exactly.
got to do the wrongs, you
And,
know. The more and more of these we
Yeah.
do.
and we got the best food in the Caribbean.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
what's the national dish? Just so I know.
Yeah.
What's the
We don't have a national dish. We don't
Oh,
have a
okay. This is
national dish,
interesting.
but for the Indian it is the roti.
Right?
We have the best roti in the Caribbean.
Oh, come on, fam.
Whoa.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm saying no.
oh.
That is a big claim there, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the Trinidadian roti can stand beside the Surinamese roti.
Oh,
It
huge
can stand,
screen.
the Guyanese roti. It can stand beside the Surinamese
Look how
It's
you
roti.
can go
wrong.
and break the internet
It's
now.
wrong. If you're
My
wrong, you're
man,
wrong.
You
Put
can
it
break the
down.
internet when you
listen,
say no.
you.
From all ethnicity groups, we have our specialty, and it
I
all
saw
is one
Naz on
Okay.
one
earlier. I
roti.
don't know if she's still there, but I know she not accepting that at all. Hey,
You
Gene
can come by
Proverbs, I see your message. Thank you.
you can come by yourself, and after that, you will tell me it is the truth.
Well, I'm a Guyanese roti man. I like Guyanese roti. That's the favorite one for me, right? You know, I with you. I with you.
You even tell him about 7 curry yet, eh?
I have not. So I must admit, I have not tasted it.
Absolutely.
But that's now on the list. That's now on the list.
All right.
I go see what this roti is that you're telling me that better than our wrong roti. That is fighting words. That is fighting words.
Listen, we didn't hear Kieran there on the. I don't know if there's a national dish in Belize, or is there a mixed potpourri like everybody else?
There's a national dish, of course. We have rice and beans. Jamaicans might call it rice and beans. You got chicken. You fix the chicken how you want it. And of course, your fried plantain. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Fix the chicken how you want
I was
it.
saying, it really depends upon where you're at. Like I said, if you're in different villages or different districts. If you go Hispanic, you're gonna have some what we call chimole, which is like a black soup, and that is really nice. You know, the chicken is stuffed with beef or pork, and you have some corn tortilla.
You can touch that stuff, man.
If you go down south, or if you go down south, you're gonna have, if you're into fish, the Garinagos will do a nice plate of what they call hodot, as some mashed plantain and coconut milk, and then some fish. You fix that fish how you want to, you know. All right. So and it's all good. It's all good.
Wow. Listen, I am sure that the guys who are watching.
This fish and chicken. So you fix it however you want. Wherever it comes out, that's fish and chicken. You go with it.
Yeah.
You go with it. Yeah.
I with that.
No, that is great. And I mean, it's really fascinating to hear how, you know, across the Caribbean, we come from different places, but the one thing that we can talk about and enjoy is food, because it is excellent cuisine. Wherever you go, excellent cuisine.
Yeah.
Leron.
Excuse me, teacher. I'm gonna put my hand up. Everybody's talking about food. With food, we've got a few national dishes in Ghana. First of all, we're the land of 6 people. Quite a few.
Okay.
Across the board. Let me put it into context.
Break it down.
At Christmas, we have pepper pot. You make this with casserie, which comes out what you get from the cassava. This is blackened meat. When it comes out, I should actually go bring some pepper pot up. So I actually have a pot of pepper pot downstairs, but I won't give you anything.
What?
So you eat that with bread and you eat that with rice. Now listen to me. Here's what you do. If
This
you don't
man
wanna
sound like a
cook for about
connoisseur.
a week,
Yeah, fully in
you
it.
don't want to cook for about a week, you do a pot of pepper pot. That is breakfast, that is lunch, that is dinner. Breakfast is with bread. Lunch, you can do it with your rice. And dinner, if you want, you could put some provision at the end of the day. On Fridays, we eat metemg, which is provisions boiled down in coconut milk with saltfish or fish. We've got cook up, which you
Mark, this man can tempt you back, yeah.
And in the cook up, you can put chana with the rice, you can put black eyed beans, you can put red beans, you can put split peas, you can put callaloo. You can have cook up 7 days of the week, a different cook up every day. You put all your meats inside, your beef, your pigtail, your pork, whatever you want to put inside, you can put your chicken. Then we've got the roti and
But wait. You said put the pork inside the chicken?
No, I said you can put the pork or the chicken.
Or the chicken. Oh, okay, sorry.
There's a mix of anything you want to put inside. Don't put the fish though; it will melt out.
Not fish. Yeah.
So cook up is fix it how you want it.
Fix. I ain't like how you're coming across here.
He making it sound like anybody could do this thing.
If you want them whole, but you can always have your meats inside. It's like a complete meal.
Nice.
Then you've got your roti and your curry.
Right.
And then you've got your 7 curry, which you eat in the big leaf.
Mm-hmm.
And your 7 curries is pretty much vegetables. And you eat
Right.
that with your hand. That's from the Indian custom.
Yeah. I liking that already.
We're gonna get that recipe.
I got quite a few friends. I got quite a few.
Listen, man, we gotta do a tour, man. We gotta do a
Done
tour.
with that. Yeah.
We gotta do a tour.
We've got quite a bit That's my dad passing in the background.
Yeah.
I see him.
I told him this time to put on a shirt
This
because
is the
I've got
living
to
room, man.
find
Don't worry
it.
about it.
We were preparing to do a news article once. We're doing the test, and he walks by without. We're in the tropics. He walks
This
by
is the
without a
living
shirt.
room, man.
What
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that? She said, please remember to tell your dad to put on a shirt. I want
Oh
him to be a
wow.
Batman walking in my video again.
Yeah.
So we've got quite a bit, but we've got 6 people. It's interesting. We've got food for every day. We've got pastries. You've got light
Mm.
stuff. And now with Venezuela coming across, we're getting a lot of empanadas and stuff. But you've got to know where to find these things. They're more in the outlying, outside the city. You can
Yeah.
see these little cars set up along these little food cars set up along the road. But
Mhm.
what everybody in Ghana eats, no exception, and this is exported all around the world,
Mhm.
is our Chinese food.
Oh.
Yeah,
Now
I've
this
heard
is
about that.
different. Now this is different from what the Chinese actually eat. This is
So
noodles
this is
or
a Guyanese
dumplings.
take.
Listen, you have not lived until you've had a Chinese. That's the fastest and the hottest meal any time of the day or night.
All right.
Listen to
Okay.
me.
A
Time of
Guyanese
the day
Chinese?
or night.
Phil, you
Then
taking
you
notes? Or you gonna watch back the video?
I gotta watch this back. This last time I think a bit dubious.
when
I
you
think there's some
come, you
holes in
got
this.
you what they do if you've got relatives living outside. They tell you, go to my favorite Chinese shop, buy two let's say two chicken and chow mein or two mixed chow mein or two Chinese fried rice. I think you have to freeze it in the package, wrap it in your towel, put it in your suitcase just before you travel. So when it gets there, it's still pretty frozen,
Right.
and they thaw and eat at their leisure.
All right.
Then
Listen,
we've got the street foods like the cane juice and the egg ball and our wild meats. Listen, it's a whole complete thing.
we're
And then
not
of
gonna
course, if
dispute
you're
that.
having a Bang's beer,
Which one though?
thing that the guy from Guyana bottled Thirst Park. What the guys call it, the cutters. When you're out liming with the guys and you're drinking, you're either eating fish and plantain or chicken and plantain or wings and plantain. So those are the foods that you eat when you're
Man,
out having a
listen,
lime.
there's a whole we global food tour that is brewing here in the comments.
I think so. Phil.
I would
Listen.
lead that charge. I hear the
I
boy
s-
talk about coffee though.
Coffee? Man, we talking food.
Food at the moment. I see.
Couldn't go talk coffee.
Evadne's joining this food conversation. Gene Proverbs seem to be really loving this mashed plantain and coconut milk stuff going on. I see Pep joining in there as well. Pep saying you're the one who love your belly. I think she said, yeah.
We all do.
So it's been 24 hours since I met Phil, and everybody's telling me the same thing.
Yeah. But Karen Douglas here said, you listening, Philip? So I think everybody knows who the food guy is here.
Yeah, man.
So-
He will be messaging you for some recipes later on.
Yeah.
very, very soon. I think Leron is stuck there for a second. No, that's a good conversation. Oh, you're still there? Okay, your video stuff.
But you guys touched on something else as you were talking about. You were talking about the economics and tourism. Ghana is not really big on tourism. We're now pushing that end. The Tourism Hospitality Association and the GTA, the Tourism Authority, they are really now trying to push that. And they're also pushing, because of COVID now, they're now pushing local tourism. We've got a few sites like Visit Ghana, and so you can just go online and you'll see pictures of where you come. You're around the city, you're going to see the English and Dutch history. You're going to see the wooden buildings. You're going to see the architecture. You get out to the city, you're going to see the communities that are mixed. You're going to come across what used to be sugar plantations, rice plantations.
Yeah.
We've got tours now that they're converting some of our sugar plantations into tourist destinations and sites, and you can spend a day or a weekend and that sort of thing. So tourism is building. We're affected by the lack of travel because of COVID.
For sure.
But I wouldn't say the sector is reeling. Because of course Ghana's main exports would have been rice, sugar. We've got agriculture going out. We've got our fish and our seafood. We've got our minerals, and oil is now an added bonus. Let me put it this way.
Well, I've always said
challenges
with
as-
I always say with Guyana, if you can just get it right in Guyana, you know, it has the potential to be the breadbasket of the entire region. And I'm
It is, I
hoping
think
that
we
this
were
whole
exposed.
this oil thing don't give us a sidetrack and forget the whole agricultural side of stuff, because I think you got a lot to teach the rest of the region.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, we actually do. Here's the thing. If we're playing our cards right, the money from the oil revenue, the development of that sector will be used to bolster the other sectors.
That's what I'm
Um,
hoping.
because
Doesn't always go that way.
we've pretty much been surviving. We've been doing relatively well on what we had before. Here's our challenge. I remember I showed you the map earlier where the coastland links,
Yeah.
where the majority and the rest of that coming down is pretty much untouched. We don't have enough people to develop the country the size of it.
I know.
You see Canada
That's the
asking
issue.
for 2 million. You see Canada asking for 2 million immigrants to come across. Thank you, dude. I'll eat in a minute. Asking for 2 million immigrants to come across and help develop. I think we need to start a discussion like that here. CSME has started that. There's always been the travel. I worked in Trinidad under the CSME for 10 years, and it's pretty decent. It's free movement, but it's limited. I'm starting a petition to actually get doubles to move across from Trinidad to Ghana.
You got 6 dishes already, man. Come on,
You know,
big greedy, no man.
Listen,
and one with 7 curries.
doubles is a
I bet you can say doubles started in Guyana.
Listen to me. I want to start that petition, but that should also be food. I think in that sector should be part of that movement, because, like you said, you're talking about Caribbean and you're talking about a melting pot. You can't melt if you don't have anybody to come across and put stuff inside the pot.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
So I think food should be one of the sectors we start to consider under the CSME.
Is there any barriers in Guyana that stops other Caribbean people from coming to Guyana to help with that cultivation of the land, though? Or is it that people just hasn't been wanting to take the risks to up
Here's
and
the
move?
thing.
It's not a thing.
Remember I said government is the largest employer. If you're coming over for private sector, if you're coming over, you've got to come with some amount of investment, because the setup it's what's going to cost you in the outset. The registration of the business is going to be a little bit. I think I think we've got a lot to do in terms of doing business in the region around this thing. We've got to change a lot of things to. One minute. Yeah, sorry. I think what we have to start the discussion on, there's an ease of business ranking that tells you how your country does. There's a lot of red tape I think we need to remove. We got to put
Across the region, actually. Across the region. Yeah.
But it's easier to get into a few countries. And when you do that, you chase investment. You don't stymie it, you chase it. As in, why is it taking so long for me to do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And I made the point when I came. I keep making the point. When I went to Trinidad in 2008, when I moved there, from the time I got a job letter and I went to the bank, the first question the bank asked me is, do I want a credit card? Now I'm like, what the hell is a credit card? No, I don't want it. Keep it. I found the value of it. So I moved back here. And then I'm banking with my bank for ages, and I said, hey, what do I need to get a credit card? They asked me for an arm, a leg, and a kidney just to get a credit card. They're now telling me I've got to go get my banking history from the other country. I said, well, here are my credit cards from that country. Wouldn't it make sense for me to be spending that money here? Than spending it. So what I do every month is going to my local bank to pay money to send it to Trinidad.
To go to Trinidad. Oh, that's nonsense. No.
So I saw a bank manager by faith one night. I was using the ATM. I was trying to call him on the phone, and that was a challenge. He said, you know what? Come see me in the morning. I got my credit card.
Yeah.
See.
But I think these are challenges. We need to understand it, and I think COVID is an excellent time for us to understand how we need to change and move.
Yes.
Out of bad comes good. And if we can't figure it out that we need to move faster right now, we're going to be in some challenges. I can use my ATM card in any bank in Trinidad because they've got a link system. There's about one local bank here that you can use maybe 1 or 2 cards in. But if I'm in a jam, I've got to drive quite a few miles if I'm out of the city to find an ATM to use for my bank card.
Well, that's interesting.
You know,
Okay.
so you've always got to be walking around with money. Now it's becoming a little easier. You can swipe here at the point of sale and stuff. But we've got a lot to do when we talk about that and changing. But back to where we were in terms of the integration, we've got a lot that we need to do. Um, and I think I think Caricom a year or two ago, somebody blasted Caricom saying we've been talking about CSM integration for way too long,
Yeah.
but we're not doing it.
Not doing it. No.
Yeah, we're not moving fast enough because
Yeah.
here's the thing. There's the xenophobia in countries. You're gonna come to take my
Yep.
job, but hey,
Yeah.
you can move to another country and get the job if you don't want the one that's being offered there. And that's what
Yeah.
I think that's what I think the CARICOM and the CSME should be.
Yeah.
Do I want to be a fisherman in my country, or do I want to move to another country where the same fish will be sold at about $2 more, and I'll live a little bit more comfortable?
Yeah.
And that I
It's,
think
it's just a lot of
with the
re-education that
ESM
has to be done.
Say that again, Phil.
I was just saying there's a lot of re-education that has to be done with regards to how we see each other as nations, and with regards to moving from place to place, working in other places as well.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, you're going, Andre.
No, I was gonna say, we've had this conversation before when we spoke to other guys from different countries as well. And one of the things that we've said, it seems to me as if sometimes the people themselves has a better understanding of how this integration thing could work and how it should work. But once it goes up into the political class, all of a sudden it becomes a football that they can use with elections and all of it, and therefore the message gets diluted, and that kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, we have not been able to get past that. But when we talk to the people on the ground, they have an idea how it should work, and they actually want it to work.
Yeah.
It's about how do we get past that?
So listen, we've covered a lot of ground today, and it's been excellent. And
Yeah.
I wanna tie this together with
very true.
one piece of advice from each of you from your territory, in terms of where you're going next and what you would like to see. And I'll go to Kieran first in Belize. What would you like to see, and what's your word of advice for people across the Caribbean who are watching this evening?
Apologies. Am I
First
still
and
on? Sorry, I
foremost,
think I got a call just
and-
now that kind of bumped me off.
Yeah, go ahead, Kieran.
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want everybody to just continue to stay safe. Right now, Belize is still having low incidence of the COVID, and again, we're just trying to do our best practices, following up with what's happening with the communities in various countries, and I'm pretty much happy with what's happening at this point in time. But I'm a little bit, I'm a whole lot scared with when the airport is fully open and operating. So for me, I just would hope that we continue to, take care of each other, follow the best practices, keep social distancing. Recently, we've been off the emergency in our country, and immediately, how people will, clubs are filled. People, there's a lax attitude that I'm seeing, and that could be very detrimental in the future. So I just really want us to also be considerate what's happening, inside our own community or Caribbean community. And then also be very careful what's happening in those first world countries like America, as we were saying before, being very careful of, how we communicate with them at this point in time. And then also they're going through having their own political issues. And we'll see how that affects our country. But I want everyone to continue to stay safe. I want everyone, those who believe in prayers, they do work every now and again for me, to figure that out for themselves. And, use this time to, be appreciative of what you have, especially your family, your loved ones, and enjoy nature. Enjoy nature. You know what I mean?
Wow.
When we were like in lockdown, I'll be like, I miss the street. Who believe I miss the street, So, you look at the tree and say it's a beautiful tree. You do whatever you need to do, but just remember, life is a blessing.
Yeah.
And to continue to, stay safe and be humble. Most of all, be humble with this blessing.
Wow. Excellent,
Nice.
excellent advice.
Nice.
I'm sure it will be well received. And
Good
Ivan,
word.
what about yourself from Suriname? What would you want to leave with the audience?
Well, I think what I want to leave with the audience is, like for instance, today we had a good chat about what's going on in the region, and I think that what we should have more in the Caribbean is like the experiences of the common man on the ground,
Yeah.
either the Guyanese in Suriname
Yep.
or the Surinamese in Trinidad or the Belizean in Jamaica, how they are doing under the circumstances and the opportunities that Caricom and CSME
Hmm.
has offered us. I think if those kind of stories are being played in the media in the region, that people will more appreciate what is going on and see the opportunities in other countries. And since we are in this COVID trying time, I will just say for everybody, just stay safe, keep safe, just do what the authorities say about the social distancing and all the other kind of things. And maybe someday we will know how to deal with this thing and how to live with it. And it will be just like how do you say it, the flu or whatever they call it. And it is part of our life now, and we have to deal with it.
Okay. Well, I think we've lost Laurent there at the end.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be back pretty
Yeah.
soon, but yeah.
Okay. No, that is true, and you're absolutely right, because it is the common person who is making the integration happen, who's having the experience of working in one territory to another, who is understanding what it means to be a true Caribbean person. These are the people who will make the difference. And we say this every week on this show, that we're all talking about the Caribbean. We love it. We want to push integration, and it just seems to get blocked when it gets up a level. So I think there's some work for us to do in all of our territories to try and convince our politicians that this is what we want and this is how we are going to push for it, because post COVID we're going to need each other a lot more. That's
Definitely.
the that's the absolute
Definitely,
truth, and we'll need to see
definitely.
each other a lot more. So
Yeah, yeah, and I think I really agree with Ivan, and guys, that's why we started the show already, Living Room, is to get the ordinary people talking with each other, learning from their experiences and just having just general conversation. Because I think, and from, well, episode 11 now, and we've had a number of these conversations where we bring a lot of people together who have never met, but just live in different parts of the Caribbean, experiencing similar things, and wanting to see that integration going. I think the more we learn, I think education is probably one of the key things. If we talk about agriculture, tourism, and
Yeah.
technology and infrastructure stuff, we talk about all of that. But a real education about ourselves, is really, really needed across the region. So I completely identify with what you were saying there just now.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Liron isn't back yet, but he'll probably join us in a second. But guys, I really, really want to thank you guys for joining us today. It's been really good. And to the audience, many of you stayed with us. Thank you for joining. We saw the comments. We saw Pet. We saw Karen, Jean, Proverbs. I think this probably was your first time joining, so thank you. Evadne, we saw your comments there, and we saw a whole bunch of other people joining as well. Marika, we saw you, and Blackman, we saw you as well. And there we go. We just spoke. We were just about to wrap up, Liron. So, final word to you, based on Mark's question. Word of advice
I
for the rest
missed
of the
the
region.
question. Somebody tried calling me, and everything went downhill from there.
Okay.
So,
Wait.
recap. Sorry, what's the question?
No, we went across the guys, and we were asking for a final word of advice to the audience around where we go and how do we continue post COVID as a people across the Caribbean.
How do we continue post COVID? Um, what has
Word of
COVID taught
advice.
us? COVID has taught us that we need to be clean. That I think is the biggest challenge here. My colleagues in Trinidad call me monk because every day I go to work, I start my day by literally sanitizing my desk and my workspace with Lysol. I don't do anything for 15 minutes until I'm done. I think this is what the challenge. Here's my take on the entire situation. Um, Lifestyles is a major thing that is I think has affected us. How well do we keep our surroundings? How clean do we keep our surroundings? Do you walk into your house with your shoes on? Do you jump on your bed with it? Do we clean down after? How long do we let stuff go there? You drive a dirty car. It's messy on the inside. We're all mixing everything together. But then we have to consider that because in the majority of these major countries, and which is what a colleague of mine we were discussing, could it be all of the chemicals that's pretty much in the food that you're eating now that is breaking down your immune system and breaking down your cells, that is taking you longer to recover? Let's look in the region in terms of if you put the region together and the numbers and the deaths, we don't have all of those GMOs and stuff in our food. This is one theory. I think what we need to be cognizant of is the fact that we need to move a lot and we need to change a lot this time around. No longer can we be reactive. We've seen what history is. We know the world is a cycle. How do we plan and do we come back? Don't have to reinvent the wheel at every turn.
Yeah.
We know this is going to happen. These are our systems. And I think what becomes big now is that we have to sit down and countries have to have risk analysis and risk strategies. Countries, companies, households. Just the same way you're doing drills, fire safety drills and stuff, we need to understand this. But it also shows us that we're all interconnected and we're all dependent on each other.
Yes.
And we need to find ways and understand how it goes, because we might think that, hey, we're good. But somebody else is struggling to get through with it, which comes back to my 25 push-up challenge. That I was
Don't
tagged
tag
in.
me. Don't tag me. And don't tag
You
Mark.
just said you ran 5K today. Why can't you do 25 push-ups?
Tiggy.
You just need 24. You just need 24 other buddies who run 5Ks.
If I was being boastful, I said I do that 3 times a week. But anyway, that's beside the point. But don't don't tag Mark though. You got to wait till this transition is fully complete. You might be a little weak for the next few weeks.
You can do the full push-ups, or you can do the knee push-ups.
Oh,
Don't do knee push-ups. Come on.
You can do the incline. You can.
Mark, the man embarrassing you there with knee push-ups, man. Knee push.
He off the screen, man.
But
Knee push-ups.
He's not starving.
I like that.
We've got all this information. I think we need to understand how to get information around, to simplify it, so that everybody's on the same page.
Listen.
And this is across the board. It's pretty much simplicity is the way of life.
Agree.
Don't come and tell me these and thine and thou and henceforth.
Right.
No. That's gonna confuse everybody. What is these? What is those? That's gonna confuse everybody. Listen, you need to wash your hands every time you're done. You shook a hand. Now these days I walk around with a spray bottle. So if somebody you've got to do the elbow touch now. Yeah, when you elbow touch in front of them, I spray my elbow.
Touch and spray.
Oh, this man going.
Listen, let people know that I Lysol you if you come around me sneezing, and this was before COVID. My Lysol buttoned up. Back up a bit, you're too close. But let's get serious. I think we really need to sit down and study and look at everything. And families can no longer depend on everybody. What little you can do, you've got to learn to do it.
Well, listen. Before Andre sum up, I just want to because I heard what you said about somebody phoning you and how you had to drop off and so forth. But I wonder if this was the real reason. This observation here from Kerry. If you actually went to get some pepper pot. But anyhow.
No. Nobody wanted to address the elephant in the room.
Oh,
we are all here with no hair on our heads, but here on our chins.
I spotted it.
Philip, move to the left and show the guy the elephant.
Are we all using it? I'm getting it right down here.
I would like to say mine is by choice, but I can't even say that. It just gone.
I've been looking into this, but I can save that for another show.
I blame it on the climate in the UK. That's what it
goes your theory.
That's it.
Usain Bolt said that is the bad genes I didn't want. Just loosen it up here, man. Daddy gives me bad genes.
Well, look, guys, I really want to thank y'all for coming on today. What, 2 hours and 18 minutes now? And I must admit, it went pretty quickly. I think initially we said that, well, probably an hour and a half, but it went pretty quickly. But I think it's really good. And I think we as a region, we really need to keep talking and talking to each other and using different mediums to continue conversations, where we can really learn from each other and really get a better understanding of each other. And so we don't be like Philip and can't find Belize on the map, and that kind of stuff. But again, there are probably a lot more people across the region in that predicament, but not probably many willing to say it. So
I was just making it safe for everyone.
You're making a safe space. Safe space.
Safe space. Everybody can now go to their maps and
find it and find Belize. That's good. So guys, I really want to thank you guys for joining us. Of course, we're going to have many conversations going forward. So who knows? We may need you back to get your perspective on different things that are going on. I think we're going to need to hear the conclusion of elections in both Guyana and in Suriname at some point, and who knows what's going to happen in Belize. So Kieran, we might need you back as well, just so we understand that, because I think those are two interesting things going on in the region at the moment.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for joining us, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys. It was great.
I hope you enjoyed it.
For having me.
Okay, good.
Very informative.
Thanks.
Yes.
So guys, that was a good conversation, man.
No,
Yeah.
awesome.
Really, really, really good conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every week I feel as though you just start to pick up so many different nuggets of knowledge from various people across the Caribbean, and today has been no different. Deep learning for me, particularly from the 7 or 6 dishes in Guyana to the melting pot that is Belize, and also Suriname being so diverse, which is very big eye opener.
I'm going to make it a point to get across to Belize at some point. It just doesn't, I must admit, while I do know where it is on the map, it's not necessary. Congratulations. Oh, he get antsy now, Mark. He get antsy.
You seriously didn't know about it?
I didn't know yeah, to be honest, I did not know exactly where it was. I would have looked in the wrong place.
He will no longer be allowed to say up and on in Barbados, I don't believe.
So many other things, by the way. Let's not go there.
Well,
No, but it's not one of those places you think about going. I'm just being pretty honest. I mean, been to Antigua, different Caribbean islands, Guyana, Jamaica, but I've never once said, hey, let's go visit Belize or Suriname, to be honest with you. And the more we have these conversations, I'm like, actually, it needs to be on the list.
And I'll be honest, the only reason I know is because when I was in school, I went to a conference in Jamaica to represent the school, and there was a young lady there from Belize, and we became good friends and became pen pals. And to be honest, that
Pen pals?
Well, back in the day,
So you knew where your letters were going.
I look it up on the map.
This is the days where you had to wait a month and a half for a response.
You know the thing. So man.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but it was excellent, and you're right. I know the comments there. People are getting very excited about the various territories and wanting themselves to experience it. And I think that's what the living room is all about. Giving our people an understanding of who we are, and trying to dig a little bit deeper. Because to be honest, we laugh at it now, Phil, in terms of your comment about Belize, but the truth is, 11 episodes, and we've probably learned more about the Caribbean and the various machinations between the territories in these episodes than ever before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sorry, go ahead, Phil.
Well, it's just, I think I found Suriname most fascinating. I'm always really fascinated by our countries in the Caribbean that are non-English speaking, because I think there's so much. I suspect the culture there's a lot of variation in the culture that you wouldn't get in the English-speaking Caribbean.
Yeah.
So I'd like to listen a bit more to their music, for example, because language has a big impact and influence on music, but also the food as well. And the fact that they have those links directly to the Netherlands, as opposed to the US and the UK, that gives a very different image of what culture is like there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in South America and Latin America as well, it's still the real links to the indigenous people as well.
Yes.
Which the rest of the Caribbean, the islands specifically, have
Have
lost
most of
Yeah,
them have lost,
exactly.
yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Caribbean countries on the continent still have those links.
Yeah.
And it'd be really good to explore those a little bit more as well. That'd be really interesting, actually.
And,
Yeah.
and the point on Guyana and its role in supporting the Caribbean, I think you mentioned, Guyana being the breadbasket. There's so much that is unexplored there that really needs to be examined in a way that can really give the Caribbean the best opportunity post-COVID, not only to feed itself, but to have sectors and industries that can support each other. It is doable, and I think Guyana has a real opportunity. Guyana and Trinidad have real opportunities to help drive forward a lot of this.
Yeah. I really think so. But the next season is going to be an interesting one. I mean, the more we keep having these conversations, the more ordinary people keep, making their voices known. I think politicians will have no choice but to listen and hear what we're saying. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here in the living room. As usual, if you have not yet joined our page, on We Global on Facebook or even on YouTube and what's not, please do. So join us on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on We Global as well. Sorry, and on Instagram as well. Sorry about that. Please join us. Click join. Invite all your friends. If you think these conversations were useful for you, I'm sure they'll be useful for your wider network as well. So as you join, invite all your friends as well. That'd be really great to hear from everybody. So, thanks everybody for joining. I see that's Joao, that's Julian there. That's put something there. We can read that. Both Guyana and Belize. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Julian. But look, everyone, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it. We don't take it for granted that you give us an hour and a half, sometimes 2.5 hours sometimes of your Sunday evenings every time to come and listen to us have a conversation. We really hope you're enjoying them. We pray that you continue to enjoy them. Enjoy the rest of your Sundays and have a fantastic week. Until next time. Thank you very much for joining us here in the living room.
Bye for now.
That was great.
Yeah, man.
You pronounce it Twitter?
Well, you're supposed